Hello, I'm Susan Nash, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the DDE Marginal Seas Task Group and introduce you to Jan Harff, who will talk to us about his work and the work of the group within the Deep Time Digital Earth Big Science program. Welcome, Jan.
Welcome, Susan. Thank you very much for the invitation to give that presentation or to have that interview with you today, because we have started work on the Marginal Seas story already for years. And I originally came through the IMG, the International Association for Mathematical Geosciences. And from that association, the idea was born about the DDE, and we thought that would be wonderful possibility to deal with that problem, which is very, very modern at the time that we live, because we are working with the coastal zones and the interaction between the big spheres, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, and the atmosphere, and the people living in the coastal zone close to the ocean, particularly close to the marginal seas. Are facing change of climate, change of anthropogenic impacts, and that's a big danger. And therefore, this question about the marginal seas is on top of the International Geoscientific and Environmental Association, and also the teams working around the world. And we think that in the DDE, that would be a wonderful, wonderful home to develop and to use already what exists, but also to further develop existing models, existing data sets, sharing the ideas. And that was the reason that we applied for it, to install such a task group. And I have some colleagues and friends, particularly young scientists, that we have invited. And we have started the work on the task group really, and confirmed, approved by the DDE at the beginning of the year. So I would like to mention that I've prepared this presentation together with a colleague from Germany, Wenyang Chang. He is actually trained in China, but working in Germany now, and a colleague of mine, Joanna, Dudzińska-Nowak, who's a geographer and specialist in coastal research and coastal protection from the University of Szczecin. What we did is, at the beginning, we did put a group together, a group of scientists from around the world. The first three are already introduced. But we have also Richard Peltier from Toronto here, Thomas Meier from Estonia. There's Peter Clift, Xiang from China, Federica Foglini from Italy, Daria Ryabchuk from Russia, and Markus Meier from Germany, and Hayley Cawthra from South Africa, and also Jim Peng Tong. You see, we have a well mixture, gender mixture, and also a mixture of young scientists and experienced scientists, and I think that's the right background to work with such a very complex task, to use data, to use data sets and model to reconstruct geological history, but also in particular to do some future protection. How can we protect our environment? And that particularly is so sensitive in the marginal seas that are a kind of buffer zone between the continent and the ocean. And we refer to an oceanographic definition of the marginal seas, including geological definition. And the problem is that we have those parts of the ocean that are semi-enclosed, but are buffering all processes between the ocean, the open ocean, and the continent. So what is our general mission? We're doing not just collecting data for just collecting data, but we have a special target. And this target is what we call the mission. So what we want to do is to prepare a computer-based methodology of integrating global marginal seas evolution data and sharing international knowledge to answer three basic questions. The first one is, how did marginal seas of different climatic zones and tectonic settings, change their paleogeography, paleoceanography, and paleoenvironment during the natural climate and environmental variation of the last glacial cycle? And this is our benchmark for the time. We're in the DDE, but DDE doesn't mean that we have to deal with millions of years. We are dealing with the last glacial cycle. It means a change of glaciation and warm period during the last 130,000 years. That's the time we're working on. So the next question is, what about future expectation for the development of marginal seas and the coastal zone facing the challenge of climate change and increasing human impact on the environment for this century? And that the century that also the IPCC gives us some projection to the future that we can use for do forward modeling for future projection environment of the marginal seas. And the third question is, what strategies for sustainable development of the marine and coastal realm can help to keep a balance between the protection of the environment and the economic use of the marginal seas resources? That's what we can help to society. And these three questions we would like to help to answer, at least partly, and step by step. So when you talk about the period, the time period we're dealing with, then we have a change from a last warm period, the Eemian that we call it, 130,000 years ago. Then the climate change, particularly to the cold period, that means glaciation. And that's what we call in our part of the world that I'm from, Bixelian. And 20,000 years ago, there was a last glacial maximum. And due to warming, natural warming, the environment, particularly in all of the world, but particularly our marginal seas, returns to the warm period of the Holocene. That's what you're facing with at the moment. So this is what we try to understand. And you see in the last glacial maximum, the sea level is down. Sea level is down more than 130 meters below present sea level. And you can imagine that big parts of the shelf became dry land where our ancestors did live and settle. So, and then in the result of warming, the ice melted and the sea level rose, and the coastline changed. They moved to in the process of sea or marine transgression, changing the face of the environment completely. The process during this change in sea level and the interactions sea level with the mainland is have very complex results, and we have to deal at least with 3 or 4 main compartments that interact, and that's the geosystem, that is the ecosystem, and the driver, one of the main drivers is the climate. And in between, we have the socioeconomic system. That's we. So we have to understand when we want to reconstruct or to project the future, we have to understand how these spheres are interacting. It's a very complex task. What we have is, we have a lot of data spread all over the world. And what we are going to do is bring, related to special tasks, data together, share the data, harmonize the data, develop or use existing models to solve the task and to answer the questions. The three questions I mentioned at the beginning were asked by the society, that the socioeconomic system, the society is asking these questions in order to optimize the management of the modern seas and the coastal zones. So we have developed a general flow chart for what we are going to do, what we are recommending to do, want to develop. So we have the databases. We have the geo databases, we have the oceanographic database, and the climate database. The first task is data integration. That means retrieval and harmonization of the data. We have wonderful methods for big data analysis. And that's what we have to do first. And next step is model design. How do we describe the different processes that take place in our marginal seas during this change, the tremendous change in the environment? And we distinguish between isostatic models, oceanographic models, and morphodynamic models, particularly for the coastal zone, but also the ecosystem. The ecosystem would have to be modeled. And then, what is the application? First, we want to generate regional to local paleogeographic scenarios. And using future projection, particularly of climate, but also tectonics of others, we want to do some projection of regional to local future coastal scenarios. And this is a result that we are going to discuss with the applicants, with our partners, politicians, and stakeholders regarding the management and develop management strategies for the regional and the local scale. This is the general scheme and flow chart we have developed that we are going to follow in our work. So what are our goals that we have on our agenda for next years? Now, three general stages. The first one has already started. And we start in 2020. What we have to do is baseline studies and research project initiation, particularly the baseline study. There are a lot of gaps in knowledge that we have to distinguish and to try to understand and fill with sharing knowledge. But this is very important before we start to model the processes. We have done a wonderful conference online during the shutdown. We had a meeting at the end of the year, and we had a wonderful online conference. And that was already the second marginal sea expert meeting. We are going to publish the results this year, on this year agenda. So stage number 2, model and data design. The first thing is we want to initiate, and we are ready, we have almost done it, initiating an international DDE research project. And we focus in this first project on the methodology for morphological evolution of coastal seas. This is the coastal dynamics, which are facing marginal seas, but also open ocean. So this is a disciplinary focus that we have first on our agenda, because this is a very important question. So the proposal that we submitted to DDE was approved in July. So, and now we are going to set up and to establish the project and to set it up, and we hope that we can do it in hopefully at the end of August or beginning of September. And parallel to this initiation of the project, we started to set up an inventory of selected marginal seas databases. And that has started. We have hired a young doctoral student to help, and we have started in June. And he is very busy and successful developing kind of algorithm to select from the existing databases really those data which are definitely needed, particularly for the project. We cannot have all of the data sets put together. They're much too large, but we are focusing on the project, on our research project. And we have on our agenda for November this year another expert meeting of our Marginal Seas group, and that will take place mostly online in Guangzhou, China. So, and the third stage is the model application development, of course, application and generalization. We will present and discuss the results of meetings in 2022 in Jastrzębie, Poland, and we have another one on our agenda in 2023. And we would like to do it together with the IMG, with the founding member of the DDE, and hopefully we can do it on an annual meeting on 2023 with the IMG together. So then we will present the results from the project, but also start to generalize, to show how the models can also be applied to other areas than the ones that we have used for our first attempt, in other climate zones and in other environments that we start with. So there's a step-by-step development. And we hope that we can initiate another project based on the first one. So this is what we have on the agenda for next time. But let me lose some words about the project, because this project is one of the key items on our agenda. And I mentioned already, it's called Morphological Evolution of Coastal Seas, Past and Future. The PI is a young scientist. It's Wen-Yang Chang. He is working in the Helmholtz-Zentrum Herion in Gestacht in Germany. And what we would like to start with, because we can't do everything at one shot, we start a feasibility study of 3 exemplary Eurasian marginal seas. And this is the North Sea, the Baltic Sea, and the South China Sea. And we want to do is a high resolution reconstruction plus future projection of coastal shelf morphology, coastline, and hydrodynamics. So this shows you here the areas that we are going to compare. They're quite different in environment, because in the northwest here of Eurasia, these areas are completely influenced by the glaciation, by the glacial isostatic adjustment, which change the up and down of the Earth's crust, which is very special. But at the same time, we have an ice-free area here in the South China Sea, quite another climatic zone. So this comparison of 2 climatic zones, this will make the story. How do these different natural environment, react to drivers and load, natural and also anthropogenic? The project is broken down into work packages, and for 3 years. And these work packages definitely start with data collection and data processing, and go through sediment budget estimation, sediment flux in the study area, but also backstripping. That means, you know, this word from oil and petroleum geology. We are doing also backstripping for the last 130,000 years using these tools. But also we want to go to do some target classification, and we want to identify the drivers. In the end, in the last step, we do future projection before we start to help and to develop an assessment of coastal zone management. So this is actually the highlight that we want to present to our partners, which are those who are developing these strategies. We want to discuss with them assessments of coastal protection in our research and study areas that serve as a kind of examples, exemplifying others that we want to generalize our results and to apply them to. And that would be the next step. Our project partners are coming from scientists inside our Marginal Seas task group, but we have also partners from outside. For instance, the Technical University in Dresden. So they provide their knowledge and their also in-kind support, and also personal supply, financial supply that we will share with the supply that we expect from, or that we will get from the DDE. So for our team in the Marginal Seas group, we have two secrets, one and two targets. One is cooperation. You have to realize on the project levels that are project partners. We have wonderful opportunities on the DDE level, working together with working groups, with other working groups and task groups. And we will have also external level, and that will be on one side international scientific networking, and we'll also set up an advisory board for the project. And the next one of our heavy interest is creativity. We have to support the integration of experienced scientists and early stage researchers promoted by DDE, founding members in the National Association for Mathematical Geosciences that will support in particular this exchange and this help with young scientists. So that is what we have as a conclusion. The establishment of the DDE Marginal Sea Task Group marks a step forward to understand comprehensively the functioning of marginal seas as buffer zones between continent and ocean, helping to mitigate the threats of coastal and environmental disasters and to promote planning for sustainable marine development, coastal and marine development. The next steps to go are foster international cooperation, scientific exchange with scientific working and task groups, on external cooperation with natural scientists, socioeconomists, modelers, and specialists for harmonization, standardization of data sharing of marginal seas geodata, and artificial intelligence, numerical modeling design. We have to develop the cooperation with international science programs and societal stakeholders to generate cause-effect scenarios with the goal of optimizing environmental management strategies for sustainable development, marginal seas, and their coastal zones. And the last is the next step, the last step to go, expand the team's creativity by involving young scientists, in particular, but developing the cooperation with the International Association for Mathematical Geosciences. This is what we have on the agenda, and that's what I had the honor to present today to you.
Well, thank you. This is quite a project and incredibly important. And everything that you're doing seems really well planned, and the data sets seem very well integrated. Now, I wonder, how do you get people to pay attention to the results?
Okay. So, may I ask it again? Can you repeat your question? Go.
Okay, so the big question is, so city planners and policymakers can use the information from this. How are you going to let them know about the results?
How I can convey and transport our
Yeah.
knowledge to the stakeholder. Yeah, thank you for this question. I do think that programs like the DDE should have, from the very beginning, links to outside.
Yes.
And not having just a discussion within the team or the people of specialized, highly educated scientists. They have to include, and that's what our proposal is, a kind of advisory boards for projects in all scientific activities. And our suggestion is to invite scientists from neighboring programs developed, for instance, from the United Nations or from other organizations which are very close to the societal needs and the questions that are asked from society to us, to scientists. And I do think that this cooperation is very important so that we have contact. We have to build up direct contact from the DDE to these organizations. And we have the decade of the ocean, for instance, sustainable development. This is ocean sciences. So we should get in direct contact and invite very targeted scientists that can transport and pick up our messages and transport our messages to their communities. And from there, we also will get a kind of feedback, how the results can be used and can be even improved to answer the complex questions that the society is asking. Don't stick in the internal circle. We have to open our discussion to the scientists next to us. And I think the DDE has a wonderful opportunity to do this. For us, in our case, in our task group, the community is mainly in the sphere of oceanography and coastal sciences. This is what we are targeting at, and we have special links already, definitely for many years of cooperation that we would like to use. That means disciplinary links, but that means also regional links. And we know special areas which are in very big danger to get flooded in the future, or are in a big danger to have destroyed coastal areas, or are being in danger to get receive a harmful situation by hurricanes and other extreme events. So they need, and they are looking for cooperation. And I think particularly these hazards are increasing. We are reading it every day from our news, from the TV, that we are living in a time of change, and we have to react. We are the ones who have the opportunity and the ability for this reaction. And we will use our knowledge to help these people who are in danger for the future and fearing some of the changes, natural or man-made changes in the environment, so we can help. And that's what I would like to put on our flag, and raise a flag that can be seen and can be realized also outside the DDE.
I like that. And, you know, the thing that strikes me is that this is a deep time perspective, and it meshes well with climate scientists and meteorology, which are in the recent, more recent historical record.
Yeah.
And so bringing those together may help with developing insights for decision making. I really like it.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you very much. But I think we have wonderful partners in the DDE also to help and to share the knowledge with us for our task is special, which is probably not at the very beginning on the agenda of DDE, but we are focusing on that shortest time scale, you know, which is really of relevance, high relevance. We are not looking for mineral resources. This is not our target. Our target is the environment, and the change of the environment that we can help to mitigate the danger and also the problems that people are faced with, in being faced with and will be faced with living close to the ocean and in the area of coastal zones.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And we've been speaking with Jan Harff of the Marginal Seas Project with the Deep Time Digital Earth Initiative, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you very much, Susan, for the interview.
You're welcome.
So we